And now, Suspense. Your host is Autolite, and this is Rex Marshall, speaking for the Autolite family. Tonight, we begin the second annual Autolite Family Salute program. You know, friends, Autolite serves throughout the world, wherever that men travel, and that's why the Autolite family is a worldwide one. It numbers among its members the greatest names in the industry who use Autolite products as original equipment, as well as Autolite dealers, distributors, and authorized Autolite service stations who make available to car, truck, tractor, airplane, and boat owners everywhere world-famous Autolite products and authorized Autolite service. This evening, the Autolite family is privileged to salute one of its distinguished members, the DeSoto division of Chrysler Corporation and DeSoto dealers everywhere. Later on in the program, it'll be our pleasure to introduce Mr. J.B. Wagstaff, Vice President in charge of sales of DeSoto. And now, Suspense. This is arson. This is death's fire burning. The work of a professional firebug, a man who sets fires for profit. And this is the story of just such a man, the notorious Mr. Matches.
Well, I understand perfectly, Mr. Wilson. You merely want to cut your losses in a little fire in a building that's well covered by insurance. Within an hour's time, you've recouped a year's loss.
With no danger to human life.
None whatever.
Aren't any tenants in this building, of course, but there are other houses on this street.
No danger at all, Mr. Wilson. Set your mind at ease on that score. Well,
it's a deal. Pick your own time.
within 2 weeks, I guarantee you. Well, Mr. Wilson, about the fee.
Oh, yes, of course.
You can depend on me.
And so the deal was closed. Mr. Matches had been employed to build another fire, a fire that would add another figure to the $4 million worth of destruction caused by incendiaries in this city in 1 year. Was nothing being done about it? Yes, the Bureau of Incendiary Control and Detection was the city's answer to the firebug. This is Bernard Frank, career man in the city's fire department, now chief of the newly formed bureau.
Waterfront number 3. Critical to dangerous, you say?
Waterfront number 3, critical to dangerous. That meant too many badly constructed loft buildings, too many antique wooden structures, too many industrial warehouses in ill repair. Where the possibility of fires existed was well cataloged, but a much more important job to the BICD was who started them.
There he is at that fire 2 weeks ago in Industrial 3. And there he is again at the fire last Thursday down at Waterfront 7.
Now, this might be him, but yet again it mightn't. It's kind of blurred.
Where was this taken?
2 nights back, Railroad 5, the freight depot.
Look at this face. This is why I say it's important to keep your cameras handy and to use them at fires. Look at this boy. He's watching that fire and he's loving it. That's the way they are, these bugs. They're real bugs. They have to watch their fires. Sure, they make dough building fires. But if they couldn't make any dough, they'd build them anyway, just to watch them burn. And the only way that we can prove that he's not just a solid citizen who likes to watch fires is to catch him with the matches in his hand.
You can't catch a firebug without a fire. And that was why Bernard Frank had a special fire alarm in his kitchen, for he took a proprietary interest in fires and in the people who watched them.
Right now, dinner's on the table.
Keep it warm for me, sweetie.
Oh, Bernie, just this once.
Just this once, I might catch a real big one.
Oh.
So long, honey. See you, Joey.
Okay, Pop.
Shut up. Where do you think you're going?
I'm on night duty this week, 6 to 9. I'm going on duty.
Going on duty. Riding your bicycle all over town, delivering packages. Your father chasing every fire. Everybody goes on duty in this house except me. I just stay on. All day, all night. Waiting to feed people who don't even have time to sit down and swallow.
Oh, Mom.
Go on. Go on duty.
The fire was always the payoff. Bernard Frank and his trained operatives scanned the crowds eagerly, hoping to get valuable photographs.
There he is again, Chief. That's the 4th in 2 months.
All 4 is par for the course. Next time you spot him, pick him up. You got any leads?
Only one.
What?
What they call him. I sweated out of the guy we pulled in a couple of days ago.
Well, what do they call him?
Mr. Matches.
Well, I want to get hold of Mr. Matches real bad.
A touch of the bell was all that was necessary. All that remained was to acquire a bell ringer.
I want a messenger, please.
My turn, I guess, Mr. Menzies.
Yeah.
Is that apartment 1A?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
up there. Get up, please. Get on, please.
Mother didn't want him to.
Is there anything you want me to do, Chief? I mean...
And that is the first act of Mr. Matches. We'll return to our suspense story in just a moment. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, during this brief intermission, it's a great pleasure and a privilege to introduce to you Mr. J.B. Wagstaff, Vice President in charge of sales of the DeSoto Division of Chrysler Corporation.
Distinguished 1953 DeSoto has been received with great enthusiasm everywhere, and we're very proud of it. So we are indeed grateful to Autolite for this opportunity to tell you about it. As you view this lovely new DeSoto, the voice of George Fenneman will describe some of its highlights to you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagstaff. Ladies and gentlemen, notice DeSoto's clean lines and sweeping beauty, the graceful flow of its new styling. Up front is DeSoto's huge new one-piece windshield, a fine example of functional beauty. This beauty and styling is emphasized, too, by the new chrome trim, leading to beautiful, longer, swept-back fenders and new rear door styling. In the back, you'll find DeSoto's styling at its functional, beautiful best. This is the new, lower, wider deck line. Beneath it, a luggage compartment 44% bigger than ever. For unlimited visibility and unsurpassed beauty, here's the new rear window, gracefully curving around the back of the car. Of course, the distinguished 1953 DeSoto is a great performer, too. It offers you the mighty 160-horsepower DeSoto Fire Dome V8 engine, the most efficient automobile engine ever built. This engine is a masterpiece of engineering skill with a superb electrical and ignition system by Autolite. On the level road or up the steepest grade, the mighty DeSoto Fire Dome V8 engine, burning regular fuel, delivers all the power you'll ever use. And watch this amazing test of DeSoto full power steering, the power steering that works for you all the time. Steering through deep water and wet, heavy sand like this is literally impossible in an ordinary car. But DeSoto full power steering takes all the work out of driving and parking and enables you to maintain complete control of the car easily, even under conditions as tough as these. The distinguished 1953 DeSoto offers you many other outstanding features, too. Features like famous DeSoto power brakes, the satin smooth ride of DeSoto Oriflow shock absorbers, DeSoto electric windshield wipers, and all the fine Autolite electrical equipment, and much, much more. Now, here once again is Mr. J.B. Wagstaff, Vice President of DeSoto.
After that very interesting, personally conducted tour by Mr. Fenneman, I'm sure you see why we're so proud of the new DeSoto. But your big thrill will come when you drive it yourself. And any DeSoto dealer will be glad to have you call on him for a demonstration. He also will want to point out the many fine Autolite products which contribute to DeSoto's excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagstaff. The Autolite family would like to express to you and to the DeSoto Division of Chrysler Corporation our sincere appreciation for our many years of association with DeSoto and DeSoto Plymouth dealers everywhere. And now, the second act of Mr. Matches.
He told me act foolish at fires, rushing in while they're still burning and collapsing. Rounding up dozens of people who look suspicious to me.
I'm looking for someone.
Mr. Matches,
Betty, this man killed Joey. We've got the pictures.
Not going to help us if you get killed yourself. No, you're not going.
They need me.
I need you to. Do you think I care about fires and bells and Mr. Matches? Joey is gone. I want you to stay. No, make me stop.
Betty, please. Now stop it, sweetheart. Come on, baby, sit down.
Ernie, don't go.
I've got to go.
Bernard Frank was on the move, on the prowl, on the lookout. Clues were followed, tips acted upon, stool pigeons consulted. When would the city yield up the hunted man?
It's a crime! Who stole on me? A murder ball stole on me!
I murder nobody, Weasel.
You got me all wrong, gentlemen. I wasn't lighting no fire. I learned my lesson last time.
Shut up. You know Mr. Matches, don't you?
I know about him. Sure.
You know how to get in touch with him?
I ain't got no call to get in touch with Mr. Matches. Chief!
Now, hold it, Mac. Now, suppose you did, Weasel. Suppose you wanted to buy yourself a little fire and you wanted Mr. Matches to do it for you. Where do you go to hire him?
I can't tell you that, Chief. If I told
Listen, you tell us, all right?
Wait a minute, Mac.
Yeah, but he knows, Chief. I can get it out of him.
I can't tell you where to go, Chief. Honest, I can't. If I tell you, they'll bump me off for sure.
All right, you don't have to. McBride,
Yeah, Chief?
go out and rent me a loft.
Huh?
You heard me. Get me a loft. Weasel here is going to hire Mr. Matches to burn it down for me.
And so, a trap was set to catch a firebug. An unused loft on the outskirts of the city was rented and furnished. Weasel was directed to arrange for the services of Mr. Matches. The bait was taken.
What's your plan?
6 men outside, 7 inside. The outside men will be dressed for the parts. Fruit peddlers, laundrymen, delivery boys, they'll be there from 7 on tonight. How does that sound to you?
Pretty good. Only one thing wrong with it.
What?
There aren't going to be any men inside or outside. Just going to be Mr. Matches and me.
Hey, Chief, you're not going to tackle it alone.
You bet I am, McBride. And that's an order. Nobody but me goes near that place tonight.
And remember, they fight when they're cornered.
I hope he does. I only hope he does.
That night, Betty Frank sat alone in her kitchen. On the other side of town, her husband took up his lonely and determined vigil.
One move and I shoot.
I wouldn't advise you to shoot. It's highly inflammable liquid. It's my own invention. Pull that trigger. This place will go up like a tinder box.
If it does, you go up with it. I've been waiting a long time to get my hands on you. Kill him. Burn down buildings. Burn people to death. Don't care who's in them. Kill my joy.
I never killed anybody. It wasn't my fault. But Joey died in the fire. Doctor, a fire? The world's cold. Cold everywhere. Fire's the only thing warms you up. I love fire. But I never killed anybody.
Drop that knife.
No. Don't put out my fire and it'll be all cold again.
You're through. It's not arson we want you for. Now it's murder. You're going to the chair.
You'll never get me. With that fire.
I thought you loved fire.
We need him. Don't let it get away from you, men.
The deadly work of the firebug continues, but with it continues the work of our fire department and men like Bernard Frank. And so we come to the end of another story of suspense brought to you by the Autolite family. It is a little bit smoky in here. I hope that you can see me. I hope that you enjoyed this very realistic documentary story. In just a moment, I'll tell you about our story for next week, also an unusual story with a star whose name I'm sure you'll recognize and be glad to hear. This evening, the Autolite family had the great pleasure of saluting one of our distinguished members, the DeSoto division of Chrysler Corporation. We were most happy to have had as our special guest Mr. J.B. Wagstaff, Vice President in charge of sales of DeSoto, and to hear about the new DeSoto for 1953. And now this is Rex Marshall speaking for the Autolite family, inviting you and your family to join us again next week for another story of suspense. Next week, our story will be Vacancy for Death, starring Joan Blondell, the story of a beautiful woman caught in a deadly trap. Vacancy for Death, starring Joan Blondell, a story well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Tuesday Night Thrills, Danger, on the CBS television network.